Hey guys, welcome back to the Speaker's Edge podcast, the podcast dedicated to help you to learn from some of the world's very best speakers and communicators so that you can learn to master your message and inspire your audience every single time you speak. I'm your host for this podcast, Roddy Galbraith. I'm thrilled you've chosen to join us today. We've had some great experts on the show over the last 6 months, but today we have another great expert, the one and only Mark Cole, CEO of all things Maxwell, all of John's enterprise, all of the different companies. Mark is the CEO of that whole world, and he's going to be talking to us today about credibility, the importance of credibility when you speak. But before we get to the interview with Mark, if you haven't downloaded the companion resources for the show, then simply go to maxwellleadership.com/the Speaker's Edge. And if you'd like the show, we'd love it if you rate and review it on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, now my wife Susan joined the interview with Mark, and Mark is the perfect person for this lesson because he lives and breathes this topic of credibility. We're digging into really chapter 1 of John's great book, The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. We're going to be going through all 16 laws over the next 6 months. Today, we're talking about credibility, and as I said, Mark is the perfect person. He lives and breathes credibility, and so it's great that he's going to be sharing his wisdom with us. He's going to be talking about a number of different things, and I want you to look out for the different elements of influence, particularly how credibility plays into that. As you listen to the interview, he talks about credibility being more important than content, and that's a shift for many people. It's counterintuitive for many people. Content is important, of course, but there's an order. It's later in the process of influence. In fact, in the discussion, we bring out 5 different C's of influence. So 5 words beginning with C that form the foundation of influence. See how many of them you can spot as you're taking notes, and we'll come back to that at the end and go through and summarize the 5 C's for the foundation of influence. All right, enjoy the interview, and we'll come back and discuss at the end. Now, but first of all, before we get into that, like you've known John you've been working for John for 20 years, from the bottom, I think you said, all the way up to the top now. How important has communication been for John in his career?
So you know this, and we'll talk more about your story and how John was wowed by Roddy and Susan, and maybe a little bit later. But it's truly around communication. It's truly around credibility. So I'm really honored to be here with both of you and to be able to share. But John believes that he is a speaker that writes rather than a writer that speaks. I've heard him say that a dozen times, right?
Actually, no, I've never heard him say that.
You've never heard him say that?
Interesting. Yeah,
If Roddy hasn't heard him say it, I brought something new.
This is an exclusive.
First time ever.
He really says that. He says, I was speaking first, and then out of the speaking, I will read the crowd, and then I would go right on the things that really hit. So John would say that communication is everything, whether you're a speaker, writer, whether you want to communicate a message. For you to have credibility with your message, you need to be able to speak it. You need to be able to communicate it.
Right.
And so I've watched him through the years use his high skill of reading a room or reading a group of people, and then perfected the art of communication, the art of writing behind that realization that if I can connect with an audience, and I can find something that works with that audience, if I will go work it and spend time with it, then I'll come back and have a lot of credibility.
Absolutely, yeah, and he does work hard at it. That's the thing. He's almost got a sickening work ethic, hasn't he? He works so hard, so industrious all the time.
It's so funny.
But it's so inspiring.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
At 76.
This morning, as we're taping this, he was, we had a board meeting. And he asked me last night at 11 o'clock, he said, hey, shoot me some bullet points of what I need to share for this board meeting. This is a board meeting. We've got a great year. Everything is good. It's going to be rubber stamped. Not for John. So he asked me to text him at 11 o'clock last night. I texted him about probably a dozen things that he should think about communicating to the board. He worked it into a message he had never done before. And for 45 minutes today, despite crazy technology challenges, he connected with the board so much so that they went, John, we make a motion not to do any board work today, and you keep communicating.
Keep going.
So he just works hard at the craft.
And he could easily wing it. I think that's the thing that's so admirable admirable.
Yeah.
Admirable.
Admirable. Thank you. I knew it wasn't right.
Susan has got a lot of work ahead of us today. To
But
keep
he's
you
the
and I-
communication guy. Come on.
That's the thing I respect about John
Yeah.
the most. He's like he works hard, even though he could wing it. I interviewed him in 2015. In fact, last week we played a clip, didn't we, of when he spilt the water on it. That was from
Yes,
2015. And before that, I said to him, John, would you do a bit of Q&A? And he says, yeah, I'd love to. What are we going to do? And I said, oh, you just come up, tell a few stories, make them laugh, teach a little bit, and they go. And he's like, no, it doesn't work like that. What do they need? How can we help them? What do we want to cover? And we went through and prepared to make sure that he could be at his best. He could easily wing it, and I'm sure he's got lots of other things that he could be doing, but he wants to bring his best to the audience.
He made a decision. You've heard him tell this, no doubt. He made a decision when he first started communicating every weekend. He made a decision because he was communicating at that point with very simple-minded people. But what that means is they had just really worked to keep things very simple. And he realized that with just a little bit of his college prep and college experience that he could impress them. And he made a decision at like 22, 23, Roddy, that he said, I can wing it or I can perfect it and make it better, or I can win at it, is what he says. And he's made a decision. And like I said with the story I just gave, he won't step in front of an audience, a microphone, or a board meeting without knowing what do I want them to know and then working it very diligently.
Yeah,
But
so admirable.
it's not only that he won't wing it, it's also that he is who he shows he is on stage. So he's not one of those speakers that's going and speaking to a crowd and then is just horrible, which, a lot of people in this industry are not the nicest, or they aren't good to their staff, or they're not kind. They don't really love people in the way that John does. And that makes him even more credible. It's not just the fact that he's so well prepared. It's the fact that he is who he shows
He's
himself.
the real deal. Yeah. I was just going to say that 2 years ago almost, we were at his 75th birthday in wherever it was, West Palm.
West Palm, yeah.
West Palm.
Yep.
And do you remember Margaret? Because there was all these like world-class speakers, one after another, were sharing, and
I know
then
what you're
Margaret
gonna
was
say.
last.
Yeah.
And she got up and she said, "Oh, I'm not really used to this, but what you all think he is, that's exactly what he is."
Yeah.
So, and it was,
That's
she was
lovely.
there. She brought the house down.
Well, and let me say this, because I'm going to tell you guys, if you think that John Maxwell loves the Galbraiths, you're not thinking enough. He loves this couple, genuinely. But isn't it true, because we've been together for 13, 14 years now, together as partners. Isn't it true, the closer you get with him, the greater your interaction, the more
you love
authentic
him.
it is. And trust me on this, if he wasn't real, Susan would let us all know. Because, you have a great intuition about it, and he is. Again, it's so fun that we're talking about this, because it all is about credibility. What you see on stage is what you get behind the stage.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I love him.
Why do you think credibility is like the first law in the book? Why do you think he started with credibility?
I think if I've learned anything about John, it is that the foundation, and I don't even know, Roddy, if he placed credibility in a intentional way, but he would absolutely say that authenticity, credibility, is the key to communication. It's more important than content. Credibility. Yeah. It's more important than a cool takeaway, that people are more interested in who you are than what you say. And so he just has worked really hard to make sure that people see what you do more than what people believe, what you do more than what you say. And there's a lot of people, Roddy, you are a pro at studying communication. There's a lot of us that really struggle with having an image on the stage,
right,
but then not really worrying that it doesn't match behind the stage.
Yeah.
You've seen way too many. We don't even want to talk about that. But at the same time, when you find somebody that is believable on stage and then you get a chance to connect with them and they're believable behind the stage, man, it makes their message that much greater in the long run.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so reassuring that John is who he is, I think, isn't it?
And it makes the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team even more wonderful, because it's backed by this
statesman.
wonderful, credible. Well, he is a statesman, but he's also a good man. He's a good person. He's kind. He's loving. He wants what's best for people. And who better to lead?
I was telling John, he was here last week, as you guys all know. And by the way, if you don't know, you need to go back and listen to it. It's available, right?
Yeah.
And so I was telling John today that I was coming to be with you guys. And he said, Mark, it's not an accident. You're going to love this. This is really what he said. He said, it's not an accident that of all the people that have come and gone, the Galbraiths are still here? He said, because they have credibility. He said, they last. He said, anybody can step in for a minute or two and lift the lid and make a difference. He said, but it's the people that last that make a difference. We almost got Susan crying right here. But that's what he said. He said, they last because they're credible. Here we're talking about credibility today.
Fantastic.
Isn't it true?
Yeah.
It's true. It's not just lovely, it's true.
But it's really lovely.
Do you know, I remember that the first, when it was the John Maxwell team, the first event, and I'd been in the business, you know, in different areas for about 5 years before, and Susan was like, it's not ready for me. I'm not ready
It's
for
not
me.
my cup of tea. That was
So she's coming to the first one, hadn't met John, you know, I think you were reading your first book on the way there, or like, you know, trying to like catch up, and she's like, I'll probably join you for dinner, but I'm not holding hands, I'm not praying, I don't want
not
to
doing any of that stuff. If they're all in a circle praying, I'm not
I'm
doing
done
it.
with that. And then on the way home, after it's in the show, she's like, this has changed my life.
I'm so glad. The first time, really.
The first time, yeah.
Wow.
I was crying in the taxi, like about meeting John.
Yeah.
Like it was life changing.
Yeah, and this is ended up being a mutual love fest. But I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. I'll never forget Linda and my executive partner Kimberly. They both are they're not cynical, but they're very careful because we just get a lot of demands, a lot of requests. And I'll never forget the conversation. I don't know if it was the first year that you came, but I'll never forget that first time of just the authenticity of you, and of course you, Roddy, and going, wow. And that was the first thing he said. Aww. That's our kind of people.
Aww.
And so, and hasn't that played out?
Yeah.
We should really talk some more about the book, though. Come on, guys. Come
Before
on.
we get to that, like John's been deliberately helping you with your speaking, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that must be extraordinary for him because you travel so much. In fact, some people may not even know, you know, how much time you spend with John. Give us a bit of background.
So just quickly, for 23 years, I've been with John. I started as a telesales representative and just have been given opportunity after opportunity to stretch my leadership. It was about 5 years ago that John, maybe 6, John said, hey, we've got to make you believable as a communicator. Now, let me back up and tell you a little bit about my background, because I did some communication. I didn't do a lot on big stages, but I did a little bit, traveled around, got paid to speak, but it was all in a really hypey, nonprofit kind of world, a church that really, it wasn't your content that indicated how well you did. It was how riled up, how excitable you can make the people. And then I get on John's stage and John says, hey, I need you to be believable for where I think we're going with you. He's not, and still continues to not try to make me the next John Maxwell. But he says people that have the responsibility of leading knows how to communicate. So let me pause right here and tell you, you are in the right environment with Roddy Galbraith. He will help you communicate, not just from stage, but from boardrooms at one-on-one. You need to be in this environment. If you plan on leading, you need to be believable as a communicator. So 5, 6 years ago, maybe 7, John says, you need to be believable if you're going to lead this thing. I'll never forget, y'all were probably there. I'll never forget getting on stage. I didn't want to be there. I was resistant. I had anger in my heart at John. I didn't want to be there. I'm leading companies, 7 multi-million-dollar companies. I've got my security somewhere else than a microphone in my hands. And John says, no, you're going to have to communicate. You got to be believable. I was far from believable. And what I love about John is over a course of a time, I'll never forget, World Center Marriott, Orlando, Florida. We're sitting in his room at the Orlando Hotel, and he says, when are you going to stop trying to do it the way I would do it and start doing it the way you can do it? He said, Mark Cole, for 20 years at that time, or 17 years at that time, no one in the world has traveled with me more than you. Why don't you get up there and talk from that vantage point? Because there's not another person that can talk from that vantage point. And if I could say anything about credibility and leadership, find the thing that only you can say, the thing that only is true to you, the thing that you can speak with great confidence and certainty in, and start there. You can start building content later, but if you'll start from who you are and where you are before what you think you should say to impact people, there will be a confidence that comes that then gives you that credibility. So going back, oh, Roddy, there were years I wanted to fall in a hole. You know this. John would get up in front of 3,000 people and he'd go, Well, Mark didn't do so good today, but stay there. 3,000 people. Mark didn't do so good today, but stay there because I'm going to work with him and we're going to get him better. I think I'm a little bit better and I am a little bit better, but
You are.
Thank
Way
you.
better.
Thank you.
better.
Way better.
You were good at the beginning. But
I was good to my friends and loved ones. I was not good. Let's
Mom
be
was
really
proud.
clear. Mom was not even proud. She was under the She was under the seat. But the point is, stick with your place of credibility, and you'll become a more confident communicator. And communication really is about confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You teach that.
Yeah.
You give confidence to people. You and Susan, you guys give confidence to people. Every year, thousands and thousands of people. And sometimes their content gets better. Sometimes their story becomes more relatable. But here's what happens all the time. Roddy's process makes people more confident. And confidence breeds credibility.
So the tagline for the book is the most important message is the one you've lived out.
Yeah.
How do you try and incorporate everything you've learned from John and include that in your speaking?
My greatest compliment ever when I communicate, ever. And I now speak in front of people that speak to thousands, tens of thousands of people a week. And I'll get a compliment here and there. My greatest one is when people say, "You were so authentic, you were believable." Mark, you're so vulnerable. I do our podcast, and on our podcast, I get these feedback and they say, "Man, you're so authentic. You're so vulnerable." And every time, Roddy, Susan, that matters a lot to me. You and I've shared about the hard path that we had trying to please people a long time, right? And I spent a long time trying to please people with my communication rather than just be who I am and let that please people. And when you build your platform on a pose, on a fake it till you make it, on a I'm gonna try it, but it's not from a place of credibility, it's a house of cards. It's gonna come down at some point. We've watched too many great communicators not last because they didn't build their platform on credibility. And so for me, 30 years of my life, I had a chance to lead, and I was posing and I was building this house of cards that crumbled at 29. So when I got another chance to lead in John's organization and communicate on a stage much bigger than me, I just went, you know what? You're either going to like me or hate me because of my vulnerability, but that's what you got.
Right.
Because what you see is what you should get.
Right.
And so I think it's huge. I think it's been big for me. I want to tell the story. I was thinking on the way over here today, being with you guys. I'll never forget ever when John was told, "You're getting ready to meet Roddy, and I want him to tell you what he's been observing about your communication." And John literally rolled his eyes.
Was not expecting
Oh, he
much.
rolled his eyes. I love him, and he's very authentic. He puts everything
It's
out
true.
there, right, Susan?
Yeah.
That's one reason we
Try
love
and
John.
be graceful. And he's going,
Yeah.
Mark, how long is this going to take? And then you took the floor and you began to walk through, I think it was about 25 minutes of things you've observed about what John does, intentionally or unintentionally. Come to find out, most of it was unintentional. What I loved about that moment, as much as seeing light bulbs turn on for John, one of the best communicators that we know, is he was doing it so naturally that it was credible. When we worked on it, now we've made courses off of it. We made other people a lot better from Roddy's observations and teachings. But when we showed John that, he was as surprised as anybody else was. Just had no idea the intentional things. As you know why? Because he built it on credibility. Yeah. I'm going to be who I am. It's not going to be some made up thing. He cries a lot. And at 76, he's crying all the time. What, John? He said, every time I think about the people that's getting ready to hear this message, my heart just swells within me that if I say it right, I'll be able to help them. Which is absolutely incredible. It's credibility.
So just on the, you might be able to shed some light on this. One of the things that we do with the Maxwell Leadership Team is the country transformation, of course. Right back at the first one, or I think it was the first one I went to, 2013 in Guatemala.
Yeah.
Like now, over 10%, 12% of the country has been through the values round tables. But wasn't there like a credibility issue with the first president or something? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, and it's 17.8%.
17 now. That's almost 1 in 5 people in the whole country.
So today,
in 10 years.
I was sharing with them that it is almost 4 million out of the 17.3 in population that's now been through the round table. You helped start that.
Yeah.
You guys helped start that. So we started working with the president of Guatemala, and we've worked with several presidents now, and this has happened more than in Guatemala. After 2 years of him mandating his staff, the Supreme Court, the Justice Department, going through values roundtables of being credible, it was discovered that there was a ton of corruption in his administration. And for the first time ever in a Latin-speaking country, we had a president removed from office because of corruption. First time ever. Now, not only that...
Not a good first
No,
time.
listen, not a good first time ever. Not only that, before it was over, 475 people in that whole government ecosystem was put into a correctional institution because of the corruption.
Wow.
Now, here's what the point I think of that is, Roddy, is sometimes when you as a leader demonstrate credibility or you speak from that, it doesn't always unify people. Sometimes it divides people. John talks about vision. A lot of times as leaders, we think vision is all about unifying people to a common cause. No, good vision separates people so that the people that's not for your cause will move to the side. So it is with communication. Don't try to get a standing ovation as a conclusion to your great speech. Try to get somebody to resonate with who you are and what you're saying so they can become better. And I think John, who gets tons of standing ovations, as does Roddy, by the way, if you haven't heard him speak, the standing ovation is never the real point for these communicators. The real point is to be vulnerable so that it feels accessible to somebody that wants to do something different in their life.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Well, anything else that we want to ask Mark while he's here?
So many things, but we've run out of time.
I think Mark wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Kimberly. So Kimberly, I think you should come up and
I think you should
give us a
too.
smile.
Yeah, I think you should.
You have to now.
I think you have to. No, it's coming. Come on.
You just sneak in the back.
Just sneak, like between the Christmas
This is the
trees.
real
You look
boss right here.
gorgeous.
This is how we got Mark.
This is the real boss. And by the way,
you're
for bringing
so
her up
cute,
here,
Mark.
what this means is
She's gone already.
by bringing her up here because she really wanted to be up here, it means I have to come back. I get to come back now.
I do have to
Fantastic.
say that, Mark, you do emulate this law so perfectly, that you are who you say you are. You're on and off stage with your staff.
Thank you.
It's not just about being on platform and speaking. It's who you are. And
Doing
it's
the right
from
thing.
the heart. And,
Will you do
and
me a
we feel
favor?
that.
Will you do me a favor?
Of course.
If that ever doesn't measure up, will you come knock me on the side of the head?
Just the fact that you say that.
I mean it.
It's-
I mean it. I mean it. I tell my staff, I tell you guys, I respect you and honor you so much. So glad we're standing shoulder to shoulder to do it. If you ever see me out of line, come tell me. And if I don't listen, go tell John. He'll knock me out.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks
Fantastic.
for being with
Thank
us.
you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Boom.
That was such great fun, wasn't it? What a great interview. Mark is always such a great guest, great energy and really, really engaging, and loads of very insightful information for speakers and establishing credibility. In fact, not just speakers, but any interaction between two human beings. The credibility principles that he drew out are important. Now, Mark talked about the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. You've heard me talk about it before if you're a regular to the show. If you're interested in developing your speaking, it really is a no-brainer. Since 2010, I've been working with John on the Maxwell Method of Speaking. I think it's the best speaking system anywhere in the world. There's been about 60,000 people that have become coaches and gone through the program in 168 different countries. If you want to develop as a speaker, there's no better system than the Maxwell Method of Speaking. No one better to model than John Maxwell, and no one better to learn that than with the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. It's a no-brainer because it's no obligation. Just go to maxwellleadership.com/speak and find out about what it means to be a Maxwell Leadership Certified Team member. You'll be very glad you did. All right, then let's look at the 5 C's, the 5 foundations that influence sits upon. If you're going to be successful with your attempt at influence, then the foundations of influence need to be in place. Number 2, yep, I'm starting with number 2. Number 2 is connecting. You need to connect with your audience. They need to feel like they know, like, and trust you. That's the first and most important foundational layer. So connecting is important, number 2. Then number 3, once they know how much you care, then they do care how much you know. So credibility is important. So you're going to connect with your audience. They're going to see that you're credible in this particular area, layer number 3. And then layer number 4 is that your message needs to be compatible with them and where they are. So it needs to be relevant to them. If you're talking about something that's not relevant to them, it's not going to be a match, is it? It's not going to be compatible. And so it's not going to be relevant. It's not going to be effective. So you need to connect, you need to be credible, your message needs to be compatible with where they are. Normally, that's you have a solution to a problem that they have, some kind of relevant message. There's a compatibility there. And then number 5, you need to make that call to action. So you need to ask them to act. Influence is much more successful if you ask them to take action for whatever it is. So number 2, connect. Number 3, be credible. Number 4, make sure it's compatible. Number 5, make sure you make that call to action. And then number 1 is character. The person you are behind the words, the man or the woman behind the things that you're saying. So this is number 1 in terms that it's very, very important. Everything stems out of this, but you don't necessarily appreciate the character right away. It's not something that you're trying to impress them with right away. It's something that becomes apparent over time. So it's the lowest level. It's very important. Character is very important. But the first thing you're going to try and do is connect, which is why I started with number 2. So character, connect, credible, compatible with a call to action are the 5 layers to the foundations of influence. If you have those 5 in place, then influence can sit very snugly and neatly on top, and you're much more likely to be successful. All right, that's it for this week. Don't forget to download our companion guide. Simply go to maxwellleadership.com/The Speaker's Edge. Next week, we're going to be talking about storytelling. We have the one and only Don Yeager joining us as our expert next week. Don't forget, communication is the most important skill you can develop. It is a learnable skill, and if you work hard, little by little, you can learn to master your message and inspire your audience every single time you speak. Thanks for listening today. I'll see you next week in the episode on storytelling. Until then, take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye. God bless.